I'd first of all just like to say, because of COVID-19, Julia's husband John and her daughter Genevieve couldn't be here, but they are watching from home. Julia Munro was inspired. She had just purchased a reproduction of the Magna Carta at an auction, and it gave her an idea. As a longtime teacher, she saw an opportunity to raise awareness through a piece of legislation. In her words, "People don't know a lot about Magna Carta. To me, that's just all the more reason to bring awareness to it." That's why on April 2nd, 2015, York Simcoe MPP Julia Munro stood up in this place and said, "Mr. Speaker, I'm excited today to debate my private member's bill, Bill 23, the Magna Carta Day Act, which proclaims June 15th each year as Magna Carta Day." Today, Speaker, I'm honoured to continue where MPP Munro left off to debate my private member's bill, Bill 201, the Magna Carta Day Act, in memory of Julia Munro, MPP. I want to begin by giving you some legislative history on Julia's Magna Carta Day Act. She first introduced it on July 23, 2014. She introduced it again on February 28, 2017, and again on March 20, 2018. It was her last piece of legislation. All three times the bill passed first and second reading with all party support. 6 years later, I'm introducing her bill again, this time in her memory as the longest-serving female member of the Ontario Legislature. Julia Ann Louise Campbell was born in Hamilton and raised in Toronto. She received her Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of Toronto. She taught high school history in Markham and Newmarket for 24 years. An interesting bit of trivia, she taught Bare Naked Ladies drummer Tyler Stewart at Huron Heights Secondary School. Before the 1995 provincial election, Julia decided, in her words, that she was tired of sitting around the kitchen table complaining about politics and decided to get involved. She was elected to the Ontario Legislature in 1995 during the Mike Harris sweep, defeating New Democrat Larry O'Connor in the riding of Durham-York, getting a 61.8% of all votes cast. She was re-elected in 1999, 2003, 2007, 2011, and 2014. In government, Julia Munro served as Parliamentary Assistant to the Premier, Government Whip, Parliamentary Assistant to the Ministry of Transportation, Chair of the Management Board, and Parliamentary Assistant to the Minister of Culture. She lived on a farm near Sutton with her husband John and daughter Genevieve. And she loved, and I mean she loved, dogs. She was a breeder of standard poodles, borzoi, and pointers. Many of us referred to her as Lady Munro because she was an inspiration and role model for many, many women. Julia had great courage and was known for her sincerity and for always keeping the public good foremost in her mind. As a politician, she was respected across party lines. She was passionate about history, the Constitution, and proper governance. This is why recognizing the importance of Magna Carta in our democracy meant so much to her. She was respectful and compassionate. She cared deeply about the people she served. Most of all, Julia Munro was kind. I'm sure during our debate today, we'll hear many wonderful memories of our friend and colleague, Julia Munro. But I do want to acknowledge the support I've received in moving this bill forward from our Minister of Heritage, Sport, Tourism and Culture Industries, Lisa MacLeod. Minister MacLeod was unable to be here today, but I know she considered Julia a friend and a mentor and was grateful to have known and learned from her as a colleague. My friend, the NDP member from Windsor-Tecumseh, who, by the way, always has one of the best Christmas cards around, said during debate from the bill back in 2017 that we in this chamber are here because we are able to stand on the shoulders of those who came before us. We are here because of established and accepted rules and traditions. And these rules and traditions are protected by law. American author Diana Gabaldon, known for the Outlander novel series, once said, "Things you cherish and hold dear are like pearls on a string. Cut the knot and they scatter across the floor." Our parliamentary democracy, like a string of pearls, depends on a strong connection, a foundation from which everything is built upon. Magna Carta, Libertatum, or more simply, the Great Charter of Freedoms, has been described as the greatest constitutional document of all time and as England's greatest export. But Magna Carta came about, though, a mediated settlement. King John of England had just lost a battle. He needed money to reclaim lost land. To raise money, he increased taxes and created new ones: income taxes, import-export taxes, inheritance, and estate taxes, even a tax on widows that wanted to remain single. Then, after a series of bad harvests, which resulted in increased demand for food and high inflation, the barons, the 1%, revolted, and England was on the brink of civil war. On one side, there was a very unpopular king, and on the other landlords that he was at war with over how much money they wanted from them. In the middle was Archbishop Langton of Canterbury, who acted as the mediator. They met at a neutral site, Runnymede, near Windsor. Let's get one thing straight. King John didn't come to the table willingly. In fact, the barons actually chased him and captured him. On June 15, 2015, he was forced to sign a document that put limits on his powers and guaranteed various rights. The key principles of Magna Carta include that nobody is above the law of the land, the freedom from unlawful detention without cause or evidence. Trial by jury was established to settle disputes between barons and the Crown. And a major first step in women's rights, a woman could not be forced to marry and give up her property. Now, King John wasn't really interested in giving up power, and as MPP Munro said when she first introduced the bill in 2015, he felt that he could sign it and then wiggle around it, but history turned out differently. Magna Carta also inspired later charters. In 2017, Charter of the Forest, which set precedents for the management of shared resources, and the 1258 provisions of Oxford, which led to the development of Parliament. The principles of Magna Carta are ingrained with the British common law system and are reflected in the Canadian Constitution and our Charter of Rights and Freedoms. During the April 2nd, 2015 debate, the NDP member for then the riding of Timmins James Bay and the current opposition House leader said, "What's interesting is some of the kings that we remember as being the better ones actually took the hearts of Magna Carta and brought it further. They started to understand that as a monarchy, they had to move in a different direction." During that same debate, the NDP member for Hamilton East Stony Creek said, "Magna Carta is part of Canada's cultural and political heritage. It has inspired the truly oppressed around the world. For 8 centuries, the Magna Carta has fired the hearts and minds of those who seek justice in the face of tyranny and exploitation." During the March 20, 2018 debate, the NDP member of Oshawa said, "Magna Carta stands as a written flashpoint that has the lights of fires and justice, inspiring the truly oppressed around the world. The Magna Carta represents equality before the law, trial by peers, immunity for illegal imprisonment and taxation only by the consent of citizenry." During the same debate, the NDP member for Toronto Danforth said Nelson Mandela cited that Magna Carta in his defence at the Rivonia trial. He lived in an unjust society under tyrannical government that denied the rule of law by denying the equality of the people it was meant to serve. Apartheid in South Africa denied the promises of the Magna Carta. Speaker, before I share details of the support I received from various members of Ontario's legal community, I want to go back to Monday, August 11, 2008, to the Standing Committee on the Legislative Assembly that was discussing proposed changes to the standing orders. At about 9:15 a.m. on that day, there was some discussion about e-petitions, and the NDP member from Welland, the then Peter Cormo, said, "The right to petition goes back to Magna Carta. It was the hard-earned right to petition the King, and it was a historical struggle. So that petition, the right to petition the King, is a Magna Carta-based right." I will always remember Peter as being in his ability to fight for the underdog, someone who fought for change and in nothing else drew attention to those which he felt strongly about. In preparation for today's debate, I also reached out to some distinguished members of Ontario's legal community for their thoughts in declaring June 15th Magna Carta Day. Aaron Deep Baines, president of the South Asian Bar Associate, voiced his support, saying, "The rule of law is a critical aspect of our legal system, and I'm happy to celebrate one of its foundations." Joanna Barron, Executive Director of the Canadian Constitution Foundation, said, "The Magna Carta represents the bedrock of the principle of the rule of law and the individual sphere of liberty against arbitrary power. The Canadian Constitution Foundation celebrates the life of Ms. Munro and applauds the introduction of the Magna Carta Day as it's an important recognition for Ontarians." They say that life can only be understood backward. It must be lived forward. Magna Carta was the foundation. It started off what we enjoy today, the rules that we abide by in this House, the way we treat each other, the role of the government and the role of the opposition. We take a lot for granted with our parliamentary democracy that we inherited from the people who came before us and who fought hard to preserve it. MPP Munro introduced this Magna Carta bill 3 times. After today, this bill has been debated 4 times and considered by 3 different legislative committees. I leave you with a few words from our late colleague. "The ideas contained within the Magna Carta evolved over the century. It signifies that no one, not even the Crown, is above the law. That is such an important concept." Thank you so much.